All right, folks, time for some Photoshop.
Photoshop.
Whether you're brand new to Photoshop or a seasoned veteran like myself. Truth be told, Photoshop 4.0 was my first version back in college, and we're now up to version 25.4.
But you're so old.
Today I've got 3 tips for you to speed up your workflows.
I feel the need for speed.
Plus a few relevant bonus tips along the way. So without further ado, let's get right into it.
Let me show you. Let me show you.
For the longest time, when working with the brush tool, this is how I used to adjust my brush settings. I would right-click to bring up this overlay, and then tweak the size and hardness values. Sure, you can do it this way.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
No, of course not.
But here's the thing. This is not the only way to adjust your brush size. With Photoshop and Illustrator as well, there's typically multiple ways to do any one task. People tend to learn how to do things one way, and they just stick with doing it that way forever, even if it's not the quickest way. So here's tip number 1 today. Instead of right-clicking and using this overlay, while the brush tool is selected, just tap the right bracket key. Notice how it increases your brush size on the fly. And of course, as you might guess, tap the left bracket key to decrease your brush size on the fly. Pretty cool, eh? And not only can you adjust the brush size on the fly, but you can also adjust the brush hardness as well. In order to do that, just hold the Shift key while you tap the right bracket key, which is basically the right curly bracket, in order to increase the hardness.
That's what she said.
And vice versa. Hold the Shift key while you tap the left bracket key, the left curly bracket, to decrease the hardness. In my experience, I tend to change brush size a lot more than brush hardness. So the brackets for brush size is far more useful to me than the curly brackets for hardness. But hey, now that you know you can do this, feel free to change hardness on the fly all you want.
If that's what you're into.
Oh, and by the way, in case this isn't working for you, it could be that you've got different display settings for your brush tool. So in order to get things working properly, just hit Command K to open up your preferences, and then click on Cursors. For best results, I recommend you set your cursor settings to normal brush tip, and make sure Show Crosshair in brush tip is checked. All right, so that's tip number 1. But wait, before we move on from the brush tool, I've got a bonus tip for you. Okay, so as you probably already know, or maybe you didn't, you can always press I to use the eyedropper tool. You can press I to switch to the eyedropper tool, and press B to switch to the brush tool, and you can keep going back and forth between the 2 tools. But here's a little trick, in case you didn't know. Let's press B, so we're using the brush tool. Now what we're going to do is press and hold the I key. Notice how the cursor changes to the eyedropper tool? So you go sample the color you want, and when you're ready to start painting again, just let go of the I key and paint away with your newly selected color. The cool thing about this is we never actually leave the brush tool. You're just temporarily switching to the eyedropper to sample your color.
Cool.
So maybe not a massive time saver, but a time saver nonetheless, which is why I wanted to share with you now as a bonus tip. I could literally go on and on showing you every little nuance of the brush tool, but since this is a quick tips video, let's move along.
Move along.
If you'd like me to make an in-depth tutorial walking you through every aspect of the brush tool, leave a comment on this video and let me know. And of course, subscribe to the channel to see that in-depth video when it gets published. All right, so these next few tips are going to be all about layers. And the funny thing is, as amazing as Photoshop's layer panel is, I'm going to show you how to get things done more quickly by actually bypassing the layer panel. Okay, as you can see, we've got a basic layout here. The happy couple, Travis and Taylor.
Bullshit.
But let's say you don't like these red circles. They're not really communicating any kind of emotion, not really contributing anything of significance to the overall design. So you want to modify your layout by hiding them. because you remember you had some other layers underneath these that were just better. So ordinarily, if you were unaware of the method I'm about to show you, you would just move your cursor with your mouse all the way over to the layer panel and then click the eyeball next to the top red circle to hide it. And likewise for the second circle, thus revealing these eye roll emoji that more accurately convey how I feel about these photos on the left. But always having to move the cursor all the way over to your layer panel, which can actually be quite a distance to travel repeatedly, especially if you've got a multi-monitor setup like me, with your layer panel often in a completely separate monitor off to the side, you'll end up wasting a lot of time doing so.
I have a better way.
Instead, you can keep your cursor right where it is in the canvas, right-click to select the layer you want to hide, and this time, simply press Command and comma. And voila! Just like that, your selected layer is hidden. And it's just as easy to bring it back if you want. Just press Command and comma again, and your hidden red circle layer is now visible. Great, on to tip number 3.
Control, you must bring control.
All right, picking up where we just left off, let's take things to an even higher level of efficiency. Okay, so both of our red circles are visible. Now I'm going to show you how you can hide both of these layers without having to use your mouse at all.
Efficiency, efficiency, efficiency.
Our bottom red circle is currently selected in the layer panel. Let's quickly press Command and comma to hide it. And now for the new trick. Remember last time I showed you how you can right-click on a layer to select it in the layer stack? Well, this time, let's navigate through our layer panel via the magic of keyboard shortcuts. Here's how. To select the layer immediately above the currently selected layer, just press Option and the right bracket key at the same time. Boom! Just like that, we're now able to change our layer selection in the layer panel without having to right-click in our canvas or drag our mouse over to the layer panel to touch anything at all. So now that we've got this other circle layer selected, let's press Command and comma to hide it. Now, one thing you should be aware of is using Option and the bracket keys will only allow you to select visible layers. Notice how we've got a few hidden layers here, and if I press Option and the left bracket key to select the next layer down in the stack, see how it does not select the circle underneath? Instead, it jumps all the way down to the next visible layer or group. So just wanted to let you know that. Currently, I have not found a way to use Option plus the bracket keys to select hidden layers. So as far as I know, the only way to select a hidden layer is to move your cursor over to the hidden layer in the layer panel and click it. If you know of a way to select a hidden layer with just the keyboard, definitely leave a comment on this video to let me and everybody know. But hey, before we move on, I want to show you one other cool thing you can do to control your layers with keyboard shortcuts. Okay, so enough of Travis and Taylor already.
That's enough! That's enough!
So in this other PSD file, I've created 4 rings. And if you pay close attention, you'll notice that the teal ring is on top, and then the blue ring, and then the white ring, and finally the red ring is at the bottom of the stack. Currently, the topmost layer, the teal ring, is selected in the layer panel. But let's say we want to change the stacking order of our rings a bit. We can totally rearrange things, just using a few keystrokes, without having to touch our mouse or the layer panel at all. Here's how. So as I just showed you earlier, you can press Option and the left bracket key to select the next layer down in the layer stack. So let's do that once to select the blue ring, once more to select the white ring, and then once more to select the red ring. Now here's the new trick. In order to move a layer up in the stack, just press Command and the right bracket key. Notice how the red ring is now above the white ring. And if I press Command and right bracket again, it's now above the blue ring. Pressing it once more, it's now at the very top of the stack above the teal ring. But let's say we prefer how we had it before with the red ring at the bottom of the stack. To move the red ring down a layer, as you may have guessed, just press Command and the left bracket. Doing so a couple more times moves it back to the bottom of the stack. Building upon that, let's say we want the white ring to be on top of everything. Well, to quickly do that, first we'll press Option and the right bracket key to first select the layer. And now, instead of pressing Command and right bracket a few times to move it up the stack, since we know we want it at the very top, just add Shift to that. So press Shift and Command and the right bracket key, and voila, the white ring instantly jumps all the way to the top of the stack. If you notice in the layer panel, I've got all 4 of these rings in a group. One thing you should know is, when you press Shift and Command and the right bracket key on a layer, it will jump the selected layer to the top of the stack within the group. Once a layer is at the top of the group, as the white ring now is, if you press the same thing, Shift and Command and the right bracket key again, notice how it will jump that layer to the very top of your overall layer stack. If I then press Shift and Command and left bracket, notice how it will move the layer all the way down to the bottom of the layer stack, although it will still be above the default background layer. By definition, you cannot move a layer below the background layer. You can apply these time-saving techniques to not only layers, but also groups. Watch. With the white ring still selected, I'll press Command and right bracket to move it up one layer in the stack, which actually bumps it up back into the group we initially had it in. So now we've got all 4 of our rings neatly contained in the one group. Now let's say we want to move the entire group to the very top of our overall layer stack. To do that, once again, just using a few keystrokes, first press Option and the right bracket key a few times until the actual group is selected, and then simply press Shift, Command, right bracket, and voila, our group is now at the very top of our overall layer stack. Okay, before we call it a day, one more thing I want to show you, combining everything we've learned today with one additional tweak. With the teal ring selected, notice, if you press and hold Option and the left bracket, along with the Shift key, look what happens. You actually select the layer below in addition to the currently selected layer. Now, while you're still holding Shift and Option, keep tapping the left bracket key. This way you can continue to select more and more layers below. Now that we've got all 4 ring layers selected, let's move them up and out of the group by pressing Command with the right bracket key. And let's say we want to move these 4 layers together to the bottom of our overall layer stack. Just press Shift, Command, left bracket. Oh, and remember when I showed you earlier how pressing Command and comma will hide or show a layer? Now that we have a few layers selected, I wanted to let you know that that trick also works on multiple layers and groups as well. So while these 4 layers are selected, if you press Command and comma, it will hide all of them. And of course, if I press Command comma again, it will unhide them. So there you have it. 3 tips plus a few bonus tips that'll get you creating faster in Photoshop. If you got any value from today's video, hit that like button. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more tips and tricks, not only about Photoshop, but also Illustrator, Premiere, After Effects, and not just Adobe apps, but macOS and iOS tips, and so much more. So much brand new content coming your way, all in the name of boosting your productivity and leveling up your creative skills. All right, until next time.
What to watch next?